G'day and welcome to On The Esky, an Aussie sports podcast where we like to talk about the world in sport, what's happening down under, what's happening in the wider world of sports. Unofficially brought to you by Capital Brewing Company. How are we going on those beers? We making a dent?
Making a slow dent in them. Yeah.
Plenty left over. This week's show, we will talk some cricket. Kohli is back. The king is back after 3 years of not
Out
making
wilderness.
Yeah, wilderness, some might say. He has made back-to-back centuries in white ball cricket. Big series upcoming between Australia and India, plus a little bit of cricket going on down under. The NFL playoffs, baby. San Francisco and Jacksonville breaking some hearts of the 13 fans of the Los Angeles Chargers today. NBA, 68,000 in the house at the Alamo Dome. Maybe the NBA will consider doing games in football stadiums moving forward. The English Premier League, Manchester is red. City suck. United rule. That's my 2 cents. Final round, UFC 283 is happening next weekend. We'll have a look at that. The Australian Open kicks off tomorrow. Bit of golf, bit of nonsense.
Bit of F1's fly.
F1's not far away. Please remember we have timestamps. You can skip to the sports that you like on the YouTube. Also consider giving us a subscription on the social media. We like to start off this show by shouting a beer to commend excellent work in the sporting arena. Shauno, he sits to my left. How are you? And who would you like to shout a beer this week?
Very, very good. And mine, I guess, is maybe the opposite, is shouting a sportsman for his excellent effort outside of the arena. And continuing on from that, following that story on Peyton Hillis, who saved his kids and I think a few other family members in a drowning effort. He and another adult were taken to hospital. He was the one in critical condition. By all accounts, he had sand in his lungs and his kidneys were failing.
Jesus.
But during the week, they took him off the ventilator. So on the road to recovery is what they're saying. So not out of the wilderness yet, but signs of improvement, and he's working his way through. Hopefully we'll see a full recovery from him, as we did with Hamlin this week. Also probably deserving a beer, getting out of hospital and returning to Buffalo and being fully discharged. So, he may be in the stadium this week to follow on with a little bit of injury news. But hoping the best for Hillis, back to him. And I'm happy to see that there's been progress being made, which is great for all involved.
Madden cover athlete. By popular demand that year. It's good to see him up and about, and obviously wishing him a speedy recovery. It's going in the right direction, isn't it?
Yep. 100%.
Monks, who you got?
Yeah. So contrary to other weeks where I shout cities, stadiums, countries, beers, that puts me in probably financial distress immediately. This one's going on lay-by. I'm shouting Luke Talley, a beer, 16-year-old, so a few more years before he can legally consume that one. But yeah, at the age of 16, in the juniors Commonwealth competitions, he won 3 golds in, I think it was 4 gold medals in powerlifting championship in Auckland. So just absolutely smashing all types of records as well. In doing so, 16-year-old kid, 170 kilo squat.
Yep, more than anyone at this table by quite some margin.
Yeah, very much so. So just huge props to him. Obviously, massive talent probably moving forward. A lot of people in the powerlifting community probably watching him very closely moving forward as well. Yeah.
And just to reiterate, he has a disability and he competes amongst the open competition, doesn't he?
Yep.
The able-bodied and whatnot.
Yeah, that's it. So no, I guess disability category or anything like that. Competes open with all the other contestants.
Ability.
So just I suppose even more props in that respect as well. Benched also 96.5 kilos, which is phenomenal as well for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, yep. Shout out to you, Luke Talley. I think he's from Newcastle, the
Hunter region.
Hunter region.
Yeah.
Well done. Enjoy that beer in 2 years or whenever you can leave it.
Put it on ice for a little bit.
Consume it. Yeah,
That's it.
Might be a bit rough after 2 years.
Yeah, well, maybe
I'll get him a fresh one.
a Pepsi Max or something coming your way, courtesy of the Esky. A bloke who is of legal drinking age, barely over there in the States, is young Brock Purdy. Mr. Irrelevant, the last man taken in the 2022 draft, is proving to be Mr. Relevant. He has won today. We'll get stuck into the NFL in a little bit. But he's 23 years of age. He's like half of Tom Brady's age. He continues to impress, and he played a flawless game today. So I'll be shouting of legal drinking age, Brock Purdy, a beer.
Definitely.
Born the day after Christmas. The day after Boxing Day. My Christmas. In 1999. Let that sink in. And he's essentially, taking possibly the best team in the NFC forward. The Philadelphia Eagles might have something to say about that moving forward.
You might be cementing yourself in that spot as well. With another 4 touchdowns today. There was another rumour earlier this morning for us of Tom Brady to 49ers is a bit hot. So I think if he keeps this up, he does the job. There's nothing to say that he can't win the Super Bowl as a rookie, which is wild to think.
It is.
It is, yeah.
I think didn't he and Jimmy G both go undefeated after they took over from...
Yeah, Jimmy G had a run that year.
Yeah, well, I meant this year. I think he won 5 straight, then got hurt, and then Purdy came in and then won all his games. Maybe. Anyway, the Niners were an elite football team.
Figure that one out. Yeah.
Who's the mop of the week, Shauna? Can you cover this one?
Yes, and originally we thought of giving it to one bloke, but reading that story, I might want to share this mop around a little bit. So during the week, OBJ, the video of him on the plane got released, the body cam footage. Didn't paint OBJ in a very good light.
Nope.
Post being woken up and told he's getting kicked off the plane. A bit of entitlement, a bit of frustration, and getting stuck into everyone as you will. But reading some of that story there, it looked like the police officers came on the plane, and by all accounts, I think he probably took some maybe some sleeping tablets or something like that because he was in a deep relaxation state. Couldn't wake him, but the police were like, yeah, he's all right, he's fine, just leave him alone. But it was the flight attendants and the pilot that pushed to have him removed. So it seems like maybe a bit of mop sharing there for the flight attendants just because they couldn't get him to put his seatbelt on. One of them said he took his pants off, and the officers said he's wearing his pants now. So I can't. I'm not sure about this. So yeah, there's a bit of he said, she said there. So bit of all moppery for a silly and stupid event. Maybe some of the reasoning why teams are avoiding him. I think also, he was medically cleared, but the knee is probably not great. A lot of them were looking to. A lot of teams are looking to add him as a run in this playoffs, but it hasn't happened. I don't see it happening currently.
Do you think that's more so the fact that players are making sure they're certain to get through playoffs rather than... I mean, we're probably in the wildcard round at the moment, so
yeah,
no one's going to jump the gun until they know they're going to make a decent run of it this season, or
maybe.
Do you reckon it's
but also
more
it should cost them bugger all. Like you're only paying him for what now 3 or 4 games to finish the year. So
you reckon they wouldn't carry him next season?
Well, then they could just do the 1 year deal and then negotiate that in the off season. See how he is. But you add him to make a run now.
Yeah,
who knows? But either way, I think it's unlikely. I think he'll probably miss the whole year. He might go around in the off season, do some probably trials. Actually doing some running because none of the teams have actually seen him whether he can pass a physical and is healthy enough to play. So you might see him actually run around, catch a ball in the off season before he plays.
True.
Look, boys, if taking a few sleeping tablets and taking your pants off on a plane makes you a dickhead, call me a dickhead. That's who the mop goes to this week. Hopefully, unbelievable talent. Hopefully we see him playing in the NFL again. Which colours he is wearing, I suppose that's up to debate, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it moving forward.
Definitely.
Righto, let's talk some cricket. King Kohli is back. Virat, VI, rapid antigen test, as per our discussion before. The bloke hadn't scored 100 in any format of the game for the last 3 years.
I thought he got one 6 months ago.
He did get one in the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe.
Yes.
Monks, you got that? And then hasn't scored a test ton.
Yeah, still not a test ton, but
for quite some time. But he has some white ball form in the last few matches. Is Virat back?
Let's hope not.
yeah. Right in time for us to go over there.
Yeah.
For Australian cricket,
again, a different format, but you'd be a bit worried that Kohli is starting to hit his straps again.
I saw this week he's about to go top 4 in ODI runs, and the other blokes ahead of him, Tendulkar, Ponting, Sangakkara, and Jawardner, I believe, have all played like 100 more games.
Yeah.
So to consider that this bloke has essentially not been in great form in any format over the last 3 years, and he's going to usurp some of those blokes, it's a crazy thing to think.
Oh, definitely. He's a unreal talent. There's no doubt about that. He's had a bit of a lean period, especially in the test arena. But even though he had his white ball form, even though he hadn't really turned up that much, he's had a bunch of 50s. Like, he's still been having good starts and hitting good scores. I remember there's a bunch of 70s that he's scored in various series. So I'm not concerned at all. Some interesting news today was he and Rohit were left out of the T20 squad, but
to play New Zealand upcoming.
Yeah, and I think that probably is more to do with the fact there's a test series coming up and less about their ability. There's more important things to be doing than playing a nothing T20 series against New Zealand.
And it comes down to their depth as well in T20 cricket. They can probably play their Rezzies, their Magoos, and go out and beat 9 out of 10 teams that come against them, especially on their home soil.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So not too worried. I think it was a bit to do about nothing in that story. I think it's more like 2-year-old veterans. Just give them a bit of rest before they have to play the big series that is against Australia.
It's much ado about nothing is a Shakespearean play. The movie, I believe, Kenneth Branagh of red-headed Shakespearean actor. Yeah. Anyways, tangents. Looking at their last few years, what's there, 9 or 10 50s before he got that 100 a couple of weeks ago?
For tests?
No. Well, in the ODI.
In the ODIs.
In the ODI
Sorry,
arena.
if I go back to the ODIs, so he's got a handful there. What's that? 4, 8, 10.
Yeah,
10
above 50s before his 2 centuries.
So if you look at the kind of the periods there, that's probably his difference. Is his conversion rate kind of turned down. Like most of those 50s in the years past, he was converting into hundreds, whereas
look at those blue skyscrapers between 2016 and 2019. That is downtown Manhattan right there.
Exactly. And you look how many 50s are in that range. There isn't that many because he just turned them all into hundreds. So, he's an impressive talent. There's no doubt about that.
Turns out Virat Kohli is pretty good at cricket again.
Shock.
Yeah.
Right before we play him in test matches.
Yes. Speaking of which, should we get stuck into a bit of a preview of Australia versus India? The squads were announced during the week.
Great segue there, Shauno. Australia will take on India. We're still a few weeks away. It's kind of a nice little lull. Down under. We'll talk about the Big Bash in a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more interesting, perhaps, with some test players. But the squads have been named. So we'll run quickly through the squads. Obviously, Pat Cummins and Steve Smith resume their leadership roles. Ashton Agar, a lot spoken about him in the Sydney Test. Probably didn't bowl up to what we were after, but, left arm orthodox, spins the ball away from the right-hander. A lot of people have stuck by him and what can he do in India. moving forward? That is the question. Scott Boland, you love to see it.
Yeah.
You know, bloke averages fucking 10 and a half.
Yes.
You got to take him.
You got to put him in the squad, yeah.
Got to take him. Alex Carey, who we saw score his first 100 this summer as a Test player.
Is he the only keeper in that list?
Yeah, well, I suppose Peter Hanscom could take the gloves if necessary. Welcome back, Footbrush. He's been very good in the Sheffield Shield this year. Cam Green recovering from that finger injury. Josh Hazelwood, Travis Head, Usman Khawaja, Marnus Lawashane, Nathan Lyon. No surprises amongst those names. Lance Morris, if you're from overseas, you may not have heard a bunch about this bloke. He bowls rapid. He's a Western Australian. He's young. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, he's the Stark second stringer.
Yeah, and moving forward, look, you probably don't see him in our best 11 for this series, but will play Test cricket for Australia, so it's going to be interesting to see
Bowls wheels.
how he goes in the nets. Another bloke that a lot has been spoken about is Todd Murphy, 22-year-old. I think he played. What was it?
First class game.
2, I think, first class games before he went on that trip last year. Sort of introducing him to the world of international cricket. One would think perhaps takes over the reins from Nathan Lyon in a few years' time.
That is the chat. Be his shadow, apprentice as you will. Padawan, there you go.
Padawan, Padawan.
Follow Nathan Lyon around and learn as much as he can. The very similar styles, the very similar bowlers, so heir apparent. So we'll see how that plays out.
Matt Renshaw, he had COVID. He had to stand, 28 centimetres away from the other blokes as to not get them COVID.
What did he hit, 15?
Yeah, not much opportunity.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Not much
Declared
opportunity.
as well.
Mitch Stark coming back from that finger injury. Yep. Mitch Schwesson. Be interesting to see if we do go 2 spinners, if he gets the nod or if it's going to be Agar and David Warner. Omitted, Michael Nisa of juggling the ball, in row Z.
Yep.
Fame. Z.
A31, row 10. Yep.
And Marcus Harris, look, had been given a lot of opportunity in Test matches. And
he ran plenty of waters this summer. But didn't guess he's around the squad, but it looks like they've gone with Hanscom and say Renshaw as the other rebuilding not renovation, but the re-changing, designing, whatever you want to say, bringing back former players that have played in the Australian squad. They've gone away, hit a bunch of shield runs. Hanscom's been very, very good with his first class cricket, so you can see why they've brought him back into the squad. Probably a bit deserve it after the way he's been playing. I guess it's switch. Harris will go back and have to do his job, hit some runs, get some form, and then see if they can break into that top lineup, which at the moment looks very, very difficult.
It does.
Yeah. Barring any injuries, I don't think that's changing anytime soon. So, did you cover the Egyptian guys as well?
Jai Richardson has a hammy, and Will Pukowski obviously still sitting out with concussive-like symptoms.
Yeah, it was very good to see him on commentary during the Sydney Test as well, and hearing from him and saying that he's actually getting back into his batting. Been doing network mostly with for close family, his father. But he's said he's loving it. He's getting back into it and just working his way into it, and so it'd be good to see him return to full health and hopefully return to the Australian squad at some point. So before we move to India, 2 spinners. That's been the conversation. You've got probably, the 3 guys as the main options. Do you think... And, for the first test, I think it's possible Cam Green misses the first one. I think he plays the second one.
With his finger.
Based on the time frame for the finger. So does that mean Agar more likely as your all-rounder to replace Cam Green, or do they go with the same squad they went to Sydney with?
You want someone that turns the ball away from the right-hander, obviously to complement Nathan Lyon. Is that going to be Ashton Agar? Is that going to be Mitch Swepson? Swepson's red ball form in Australian domestic cricket probably lacks, something in terms of his numbers?
I think his Australian form, though, is better than his subcontinent form, which I think may be a bit of an issue there. But he is probably the best pick of a specialist spinner outside of Nathan Lyon.
So I like Mitch Swepson. I like what he does. I'd love to see him playing on a ranked Nagpur day 4, landmine deck. But does it come down to Agar giving you something with the bat, and you can bat him at 8, and is that the thing that splits the two?
And then what, do you pick 3 quicks?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Would you have Agar and Swepson in the squad?
In the team, I doubt it.
Oh, yeah, in the team.
No, I don't think you can afford to carry both of them.
So it'd be more like a Swepson or either one of those and Renshaw. Maybe. You bat deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, well, that's the Sydney squad. That's what they played with recently.
And this is assuming Cam Green is unavailable.
Yes. I think a different conversation for the second test, because I think that is almost definite. I think Cam Green will be back for that one, just based on time frame. I'd say 50-50 the first. I'd say definite for the second. So these guys probably need to press for their spot, knowing that Cam Green's going to walk back in. Because I think if Cam Green's healthy, it makes more sense to go Swepson, because you've got him as the extra pace option, and then you can pick your 2 spinners.
Yep.
Whereas that's why my question: if you pick Agar, then do you pick an extra pace guy so you still have 3 pace guys in the squad, in the team? Sorry, to bowl.
It's gonna be interesting. That is for sure.
Easy decision to make.
No.
Glad
we're not selecting.
Yeah, I know. And to throw out an odd one, if you love Nathan Lyon so much, why wouldn't you have 2 of them?
Well, yeah, that is an interesting question.
Yeah,
because most of the conventional thinking is you want 2 spinners that complement each other.
But could you have Nathan Lyon bowling at both ends? Wouldn't that still?
Yeah, Todd Murphy.
But that's also a big, big.
That's a wrap on Todd Murphy.
But they do love him. That's why he's in the squad at such a young age, and they want him there to of course, absorb as much as he can from Nathan Lyon. But yeah, if Agar really hasn't done that much, Swepson really hasn't been pushing his case, do they try a Todd Murphy, and go for like, and see if they could end up with 2 Nathan Lyons in the squad?
I'd be surprised if that's the way that they go, but I also hear where you're coming from. Why not? Why not have 2 that spin it into the right hander if they're the 2 best spinners in the team?
Yep. Well, I guess maybe let's use that as a segue into the Indian squad. How many right-handers do they have in that team? Maybe we'll leave that up to Jimmy to figure out the batsmen of where.
In terms of sticks?
Yeah. Do they have a preference that maybe they do have the...
It's a lot of right-handers, especially in the top order. Rohit Sharma will captain the team. KL Rahul will be the vice skipper. Into Shubman Gill, Cheteshwar Pujara, Virat Kohli, getting hot. Shreyas Iyer, KS Bharat, don't know too much about him. Ishan Kishan, Ravi Ashwin, Akshar Patel.
Well, you skip over those 2. Those 2 will be, one of them will be the keeper, of course, with Pant still recovering from his injuries after the car accident.
Lucky to be alive, really.
Yes,
really.
Scenes, some of the videos coming out of that, very, very lucky.
Hoping he makes a full recovery. I suppose cricket is probably the last thing on his mind at the moment. We've had a bit to do with the Delhi Capitals, and he's been with them for quite some time. From the other side of the world, I suppose we feel some sort of connection to Rishabh Pant, and just hoping that he pulls through this difficult circumstance.
I think we've all had big raps on him. Think he's probably potentially the next Indian captain. Whenever Rohit kind of hangs it up, I think he's the captain in waiting essentially. So yeah, we'll hopefully the best for him. Hopefully full recovery, and that he can come back into the squad in due time. Do you want to finish off? Where do we get to? Ashwin Patel?
Ravi Ashwin, Akshar Patel, Kuldeep Yadav, Ravi Jadeja comes back. So there's their 4 spinning options, I suppose, on their decks. Probably the 4 best spinners in the world, really. So that's going to be.
I was trying to think.
Interesting.
When was the last test played there? Was it against England, or do they play as Test series since then?
I think it was England.
And what did they do? They did Ashwin and Patel for most of it, and I think for like the last game they switched out.
But Jadeja unavailable.
Oh, yeah,
so
okay,
you
caveat.
you would think Jadeja picks himself.
Yep.
Would you not?
Yeah, I would say so.
Mohammad Shami, Mohammad Siraj, Umesh Yadav, Jadev Unadkat, I hope I'm saying that right, and then Surya Kumar Yadav, who has been absolutely killing it in the white ball format. I wonder if he manages to sneak his way into this test team.
Well, there's another big out there due to injury that we haven't mentioned besides Pant.
They're best quick. Jasprit Bumrah still recovering. So as an Aussie fan, looking at this team, you'd love to see that Bumrah and Pant aren't in there in terms of, our ability to go and jag a few wins over there. Mm-hmm. Having said that, you look at that squad and how good they are in India. We've got our backs against the wall. It's a massive task, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to look at that list Jimmy's thrown up on the screen, and I see a lot of right-handers.
Yeah, the rest of the whole batting.
Yeah, the whole top order is right-handers in that big list there. Most of your all-rounders a bit
through the middle order. You get a bit of
that.
Akshar
Still a
Patel
lot of right, and your pace guys are right. So I don't know, maybe a little bit to that theory. They've got a lot of right guys. Maybe that's what they'll like. They'll may hope for the 2 Nathan Lyon option. We will see. We will see.
I wouldn't want to go with that option and then it not work though. Like you'd probably want to try and make sure you do have other options, I guess.
So I think that's maybe...
Would you be relying on maybe a Smith or Labuschagne to provide something a little bit different?
Maybe. Oh, I think this might be more an option, say, for the second tests. Again, Cam Green. Maybe that's where they go, hey, we've got Cam to cover us with a bit extra pace. You've got a bit more rotation there. Let's try our 2 Nathan Lyon special and see what happens. Maybe. It might depend on how the first one goes. Like if we get pumped, they might want to make changes, wholesale changes, and then it gives them options to go elsewhere. If it's very close, they'll just stick with whatever the squad was that they went into the first game with. So we'll see.
Is it
a lot to happen? A lot of question marks.
And back to your point, there's a high probability that they go into that first test with the top order only having one left-handed stick in terms of Ishan Kishan.
Mm-hmm. Well, who's your 11 for India, Peppy?
Sharma, obviously, at the top. I think Gill probably
opens. Yep.
Yeah, I think Pujara bats 3. I think Kohli bats 4.
Yep.
Where it gets interesting is probably 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Does Surya Kumar Yadav get a gig there? Does Shreyas Iyer get a gig? Do they both get a gig?
Potentially.
I'm working this out as we go. I think that's 5 and 6. I think Akshar Patel probably plays again at 7.
Who's your keeper?
Ishan Kishan.
Kishan, yep. So I think Patel at 7 kind of makes sense.
Jadeja 8.
Ashwin, well...
Can he play 3?
Yeah, you've picked 3 spinners there. Yeah, well, you can't leave Ashwin out of the squad. He's too much of a veteran presence.
That's hard, man. And then probably the two
two best quicks. Yeah.
The 2 Mo's probably play. Look, it'd be a nice problem to have to be an Indian selector looking at that team over there.
Yeah, big choices we made in both teams for the first test match. It'd be really interesting to see what happens, whether one blinks first and they announce their team and then the other one maybe makes a radical change for the other one. Who knows? We'll see.
Fuck, you made me think on the spot then as well.
No, that's all right.
It's good. Like, it's going to be an interesting series. And I think for us as well, having dominated this summer, against the Windies and South Africa, who we probably expected a little bit more out of, this is the real test of a good cricket team. Can you go
away
to the subcontinent on, the word disgusting decks, comes to mind, but that's what they're going to be. I was watching a few highlights, and you don't know what you're going to get.
Yep.
How are our sticks going to handle that? I know Smith is very good away from home. How are the others going to go? It's going to be intriguing, and I can't wait to watch it. It might be a reality check as well.
It could be. Like, going into India to try and win a series is also very difficult.
I don't think we've done it since Adam Gilchrist took a team over there. It's been many years.
It's a very different. I don't want to say it, but I feel like the Australian batsmen struggle with spin more than anything.
Well, of course they do.
Yeah, well, spin and swing
Over
like
there.
like not unsurprising. It is the most difficult thing, but I think from where you play in Australian conditions, it's an extra magnitude more difficult, especially when you go to India for spin and you go to England for swing. Like it's a lot different. So,
and that's
very
the thing.
Interesting.
That's the thing where Smudge really, puts his name forward as being a great cricketer, is that his record away from home is
just good.
Yeah, immaculate, really.
Well, it's going to be a big test for three guys in the top four, and Usman in unreal form as well. So it'll be big test, kind of prove the point of how good they actually are.
Looking forward to it. Definitely. Yep. It's a great time as well for, us on the east coast of Australia.
Yep.
You can knock off work, those
straight into the cricket.
Straight into it. I believe there's going to be a day-nighter as well.
Okay.
Which kind of fucks up
us. Yeah. That's like a midnight start, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite late, but the other three will be daytime games over there. So, the early evening.
So is it pink ball?
I believe so, yes. And I think that's going to...
That would favour us, you'd think.
I don't know.
Well, we've played probably the most pink ball out of any of the nations.
Yeah, but there.
But it still is there, but yes. Yeah.
And I think it's Ahmedabad. He's going to have the pink ball with 130,000 saying, you suck, Smudge.
Ooh. Get some notes there. Maybe you're wrong, Peppy. No day-night test.
Any notes?
What was that?
Ramian's throwing in there.
Thank you, Romana, for sharing that. I thought differently, but perhaps I'm wrong. I've been wrong many times.
Yes. We can't be perfect. We'll let Jimmy on the end to figure that out. Let's move on and talk Big Bash. Big Bash is underway. There's a bit of heat I saw before from Matthew Wade, and there was Thunder taking on the Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes were going to do that one easy. They had about 8 overs to go and about 20 to score. It looks like it's probably already done. The big chat, of course, Sixers are on tonight with the Australian players are back. So the Sixers, of course, will get Nathan Lyon and Smudge in the squad. Who played last night from the Australian team? I've forgotten. Warner, yes. So maybe some juice into the Big Bash League for the upcoming... Well, when do you think they get on a plane? Start of Feb for the next 2 weeks?
We were talking about it before the show, and it maybe speaks volumes to where the Big Bash is at the moment. They had this draft, right, and they bring in these
international talent,
elite South African, English, Pakistani cricketers.
I was going to say they have 6 to go, and Tim David, I think, just hit the 6.
Done. Tim David will walk off. But these guys that they draft and they play 5 games and then they fuck off, essentially. Yeah. And they've timed that around the Test series finishing up, and you've got the likes of Smith and Warner and Khawaja and the rest coming.
Most of them, I think, are playing. Labuschagne played the other night.
Which makes me a little bit more intrigued.
Agree. And they've promoted it massively as well, the Big Bash League, TV advertisement, etc., as all the Australian stars have returned to the Big Bash, etc., trying to, again, build hype back in the competition as it gets into, I guess it's middle to later stages.
Yes.
Before we get into finals.
Is there a world where they coexist, these, Australian Test players and the elite international players?
I'd love to see it. We covered it at length, I guess, last podcast as well, about how that all fits in the competition with the growth of the Indian-backed other T20 leagues and how it all fits together.
Which are about to start up, mind you.
Also, yes, agree, about to start up. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see the longevity of that. But I guess it was in Big Bash, probably in the headlines. Besides that, for the wrong-ish reasons, with Cricket Australia's announcement, they have cancelled the one-day series against Afghanistan, which did, of course, cause a bit of uproar in the Afghani players that are currently here playing in the Big Bash League. The face of that, of course, being Rashad Khan, as their probably best player in that country. I would say
arguably the best T20 player in the world.
Yes. Kind of throwing, hey, if you don't love us there, then you can't love us here. I think I might have mangled his quote there a little bit, but I think that was the gist of what he was trying to get at.
No, he wasn't too happy with Cricket Australia's decision. To me, it seemed like Cricket Australia probably looking for a reason to get out of this tour, and they've
get it off the calendar.
They've used, the unfortunate ascendancy of the Taliban in the last few years to justify it.
And the recent, I guess, legislation and the laws pushing the female population, which is what Cricket Australia here has disagreed with in their overall treatment of women. So it's... The politics side of it, we probably shouldn't touch too much.
No.
It's just created a kind of, I guess, a messy situation
very unfortunate.
Between some of your stars in the Big Bash League and some of your, and the international game and kind of how it all fits.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I don't know if you could have, they've made a stance. It's a good stance to probably take. It's just don't know, timing, kind of maybe icky. It's hard to kind of nail this story down.
We probably don't want to weigh into it too much because you're probably getting down to the itty bitty of what makes us human.
Yes,
and obviously here, men and women, are equal. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that is not the same all around the world.
Agree.
And where does sport play into that? Mm-hmm. One must ask that question.
Well, I guess you've seen it recently with human rights and for Qatar World Cup. You've seen it with Russian athletes and the war in Ukraine. The idea of using sports as a way to put pressure on a foreign country for change, I guess, is the main thing. Maybe haven't seen a lot of a result, but we're talking about it. I think that's the main thing. It's
having the conversation is important.
Yes. Does
us not going to Afghanistan to play cricket actually change anything that what happens in that country? I don't know. But look, at the end of the day, we're a sports podcast. We like to discuss the week that was in sport and have a few beers and look, maybe we don't have the answers to all of these,
the meaning of life, etc.
Yeah. Well, the more pressing kind of issues.
Yes.
Amongst humanity.
Yeah, it's some of that stuff, is with the people of that country to sort through and deal with, but then, that always can't be the solution. Sometimes they need support and help from outside. So it's geopolitics and etc. There's a whole bunch of shit.
Past our pay grade.
Big time.
Which on this podcast is 0. Plus a few ads. Nam says India going to win the series 3-1. Well, if India win 3-1, we make the World Test Championship. Yes. If we lose 4-0 and Sri Lanka win a few games against New Zealand, which I don't see happening, we miss out. Essentially, we can go over there and lose every game and still make the World Test Championship final. However, I don't think the boys would want to have that as their goal. They probably want to take a game or possibly the series.
Well, I can see probably a potential draw as well in one of those games. So it could be like a 2-1 series. But that's the question: if it's 2-1, who's the winner? I think it'll be a very close and hard fought series, like everything else we've seen from both of those nations recently. Let's hope for that. I'd rather have hard fought cricket matches versus shit pumping. So that's my hope. Up the Aussies.
Look, for me as an Australian cricket fan, I'd probably take 3-1. I'd probably take 3-1 looking at it. This series,
Generous.
this series scares me. I'm looking forward to it. It's intriguing. Can't wait to watch. And especially the evening time slot after working down here. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You've got that World Test Championship table there, Monks.
Ooh,
Yep.
1 and 2.
How does it play out?
We are 1 and 2 at the moment. Australia is number 1.
South Africa dropped to 4 after the summer
series.
pumping.
Yeah.
I can't tell from his distance that Windies in 3.
No, Sri Lanka is
Sri
in
Lanka
number
is
3.
okay.
Yep. So top 5 there: Australia, India, Sri Lanka, South Africa, and England. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bottom 4 already have been eliminated, and it's probably, like you say, what Sri Lanka do against New Zealand.
I think it's a 3-horse race, and I think the odds are against the Sri Lankans.
When's that game played?
Upcoming.
Middle of the year?
Nope. Oh, the World Test Championship.
World Test Championships.
That'll be middle of the year.
Middle of the year. So potentially the series might be extended a match is what I'm getting at. We'll see what the result is in India, and then whether they play that in England.
Yeah, I believe the final is at Lord's.
Neutral ground.
Neutral
There you go.
ground.
Interesting.
Yeah, no England. That's funny.
We will see. We will see. Enough cricket. Do we talk some NFL? Getting stuck into the playoffs.
San Francisco had a great second half today against the Seattle Seahawks, 41-23 winners. It was a little bit damp. I think they had forecasted a little bit more rain than what they got.
Yeah, I think they were saying it was going to be heavy rainfall, but which probably alludes to a good 49ers game, but it didn't look that bad from what I saw.
Spoke about him at the top of the show, Mr. Relevant, Brock Purdy, doing a bit.
4 tatters for him.
And that San Francisco defense is very, very good, spearheaded by Fred Warner.
Maybe gave up a few deep balls to DK, but outside of that,
DK had a day.
He had a day, and really needed to kind of keep them in this game, but they shut him down in the second half, and 49ers ran away with it. So, yes.
He's fucking hot, isn't he?
Yeah.
You ever seen DK, summer pre-season, the...
Outside of football, he's
Ooh!
is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Did you see them warming up in Buffalo? Was it Buffalo a couple of weeks ago? Or
They all had their
up
shirts
north?
off.
Yeah. No, Kansas. In Kansas. And they all had their shirts off. You warmed up.
Maybe Colt
Very
looking
tasty.
at it.
Yeah.
What do we think of San Francisco? Can they win the whole thing? That's thunder.
It's thunder, yeah. It was a bit of a storm here, so yeah.
Storms are brewing.
Storms are brewing. 49ers.
They're going very deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think it's them and Eagles. Clear heads and above everyone else.
Yep, I think that's fair. Does Dallas or the Buccaneers?
We'll get to Dallas. Let's talk. We'll
Anyway.
talk about Dallas in a little bit. So, with that, the other side of it, we had Jacksonville taking on LA and the LA Chargers. That is, and the Chargers do Chargers things. Take a 27-7 lead into the half and end up losing 30-31 in this game. It was the crucifixion of Trevor Lawrence, football Jesus, in the first half, and the resurrection in the second.
He has risen.
Yeah, he has risen.
Football Jesus has risen.
Yeah, and to save the Jags season, I think their last 4 games they were losing in half and one as well. So they do like to be behind and chase by all accounts. Massive balls on Doug Peterson as well as their coach as well. Went for 2 multiple times, going for 4th downs. Just kept them in the game and really pushed. Chargers fell apart a little bit. Bolsa had a bunch of unnecessary penalties as well, and they kind of fell away, which was massive considering they had 5 turnovers, 4 picks, and 1 fumble recovery in the first half. I think I said to you beforehand, I thought having all that turnovers, having all that possession, and only have a 20-point lead. You left a sniff. You left a sniff there, and left the door open,
Apparently, yeah.
or the stone tomb, as you will, and he left it ajar, and Trevor Lawrence has kicked it out and has risen, and they win, which is very, very impressive there.
It's the most Chargers way of losing ever.
Missed a kick as well, so missed a kick which would have put them in front and would have put them out of reach in this one. But yeah, it's very, very Chargers.
Duval County goes to the next round. Yes. What do we think of Brandon Staley last week playing all his starters, given the game did not mean anything?
Didn't mean anything. Did lose Mike Williams as the big out.
Who broke his fucking back.
Yes.
Apparently it's not too bad. It's a non-surgical back fracture.
Yes.
I love to see it. Joey Bosa was 50,
sore groin,
50-50 before the game. He did end up playing.
So the shot that Josie Jewell put on Eckler as well. You kind of was like, these are the reasons why.
Get them out of there.
You're not playing starters for a game, and they've ended up even playing their starters end up losing their game, which probably doesn't help your playoff chances against the Denver team outplaying you.
Why not put you in the right mindset?
Yeah, exactly. So a bit of chat about his job as head coach. Sounds like senior office, owners, etc., weren't real happy with some of his questionable decisions, and that will continue. So on the hot seat, it could be, the last nail in his coffin, and he will get sacked in the coming week.
Time will tell. Time will tell. It didn't make a lot of sense to us down under. That is for sure.
And we're not the big Chargers fans. We'd have to call in a few and ask some questions. But by all accounts, a lot of questionable decisions throughout the entire season, not just in the last couple of weeks as well, which asking a lot of questions about his caliber as a head coach and whether with the young Herbert and the talent they've got there to put him over and, of course, potentially win a Super Bowl. That's what all the teams are aiming for. Maybe they need to go get a veteran coach in the like of, say, Sean Payton, etc. Those guys that are in the conversation for this round of head coach positions.
That's it.
Did you go? I was looking at you haven't broken it up AFC based. You've gone either or, but that's probably in the order they're played at. So Bills Dolphins.
Bills Dolphins is the early game tomorrow.
Yep.
Tua out.
Confirmed.
Skylar Thompson is going to have the start. The Bills probably walk this one in.
I'd say so.
You'd think so.
It's crazy to see how healthy the Bills are. I think they've got bugger all people on injury reserve and they had no one on their injury report for this week. So they're super healthy. They did add Cole Beasley from the practice squad onto their starting roster. So I think he'll have a very minimal role, but they have also got him floating around. What's their record against the Dolphins? Did they lose the first one and win the second?
Yep, I believe so. They lost week 3, I think, to the Dolphins.
Yeah,
yep.
I just don't see the Dolphins winning without their man Tua against red hot Bills team with all that news of Hamlin. Hamlin maybe even out the stadium. I just think they'll be so hyped and so G'd for this game. They'll pump them.
Yep,
pump them big.
Vikings Giants.
Who's the fakest team of them all?
The Vikings won 11 games and went 0 losses this year in games under 1 score. Mm-hmm. Does that mean they know how to win football games?
Did they end up finishing this season with a negative points differential?
It was close.
Very close. Almost even, let's say. And then
you can chase that one up, mate.
And then you've got the Giants, who I guess one of those teams that maybe snuck in a little bit into this.
So does that make Minnesota
as a third team in this division, out of that division as well? So,
indeed, no Commanders. Mm-hmm. Does that make Minnesota good at winning football games, or does that just mean they've been lucky 11 times in a row?
Well, I think they're good at scoring lots of points and also bad at letting in lots of points. And then, as you will see, if some Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson magic to win his football games, which hasn't worked all the time. It has most of the time this year. So I still think they should probably beat the Giants overall as a squad. But Giants maybe are a better overall team. Like I say, they're above average overall team, whereas I think the Vikings are like elite offense and terrible defense. So we'll see if Vanilla Danny Dimes can get them. Vanilovic, actually, that's the name. Can get some rushing touchdowns against this team, and it's probably gonna be close. I'm still favouring Vikings maybe by a touchdown.
I agree. I think that offense is elite. I think they may be a little bit leaky on the defensive side of things.
Yeah, and if they have to play Eagles or 49ers next week, I'd say bye-bye, see you later.
I'd agree. See Justin Jefferson's numbers. He finished with 19, or not quite 1,900 yards.
Didn't break the record, I believe.
I think sixth all-time.
Sixth all-time, yeah. Of course, led the league for this season as the rushing leader. Receiving leader, yardage leader. So, yeah, like I said, he's elite. That's one of the main reasons they have been as good as they have, is they get that connection with him and scoring all those points. We'll have to see if they can do it against the Giants.
That's a negative 3 point difference.
There you go.
-3.
Which is crazy.
And what was their record?
13
and 4.
Yes.
And had negative points difference. Interesting.
Crazy, I think. Crazy.
Let's go to the AFC North. The Bengals take on the Ravens. It's going to be an uphill battle, you would think, for the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. PCL injury. He won't be back this year, it seems.
Yes. Yeah, there was some rumours, and I think there was actually from Sammy Watkins, who's back with the Ravens, was saying that, if he had his big contract, he would be playing in this game. So from a direct teammate, it's really interesting take, very interesting take. We will see whether that played a part. I guess having $200 million in your bank account makes your knees feel better, but it also doesn't fix ligaments.
That is true.
So, hard to say. It was an interesting take to come out of this game. They'll be up against it, taking on a red-hot Bengals team who really got nothing coming into this. Mixon got fined, of course, for his coin flip. Did hit up Roger Goodell on Twitter to say, let's flip a coin. Whatever.
Yeah, what happened around that? Can you enlighten the listeners?
It still depends on results, because they've picked the neutral stadium, which I believe is Atlanta from memory. So if it's Bills, Chiefs, they will go there. For the Bengals, I can't remember what their situation is, but for them, they'd have to flip a coin on where if it's Bills versus Bengals, I think then they have to flip a coin on who's the home team.
Yeah, right.
So that was the whole point of the selling. He was kind of saying that, that's annoying. Like, why is the league forced us into that situation to put it on a coin toss when it's out of our control of what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, he got his, I think it was like 15, 18K fine. But then he said he'll flip a coin, let him and Roger flip a coin. If Roger calls it, if he calls it right, he'll pay the fine. Otherwise, let's send the fine to a charity. So, which I think is an interesting take for a celebration that was, a bit of nothing. Anyway,
flip of the coin, huh?
Yeah, I think Bengals for this one.
I agree.
Yep. Without Lamar, Bengals should be too much for him.
Any news there on the flipping of the coin?
No, not that I can see from here. I think a lot of it was sort of around that.
It's results. We'll know. I think we'll know in a couple. After the divisional round, we'll know. It's about the conference game. It's where that conference game gets played. We'll know by then the scenarios of who's playing what. Yeah, it could end up being Bengals and Jacksonville go through, and then it doesn't matter. So it might not be needed. But time will tell.
Yeah, because I think last week a lot of it was based on who was going to get what seeding, and now I suppose now that it's all sort of done and dusted, they're working out the rest. Yeah,
well, it's because the Bills could still have equaled Kansas City, and the Bengals could have equaled the Bills. Yep. So depending on how they play out, it's when they come together, they don't have a defined seed against each other. So they'll have to make a decision on who does what. Anyway, let's talk Buccaneers, Cowboys, your two teams.
Let me throw this hat in the bin.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Mark? Do you think the Bucs start as favourites, I believe, in this one?
Yeah.
I think I put the stat there.
I'm always worried with the Bucks.
I think I put the stat there. Tom Brady's been 6-0, and I think that might have been incorrect. It's actually 8-0 against the Cowboys. Like he has an elite record against the Cowboys, which is pretty impressive. Only 5-4 since the divorce, so it kind of equaled out. So I think he was was that math equal 3-5 before and 5-4 post. So he did improve a little bit. Not sure if it was a divorce or the team getting a little bit hot. Tampa sneak in, but I think the big conversation's got to be about the Cowboys because they got pumped by the Commanders 26-6 the week before.
Yeah.
Dak threw a pick six. Dak has been bad.
His numbers worse than Derek Carr's.
Yes, and that was a conversation we had last week, and I was a little bit worried about it. And Commanders kind of showed it. Good defense. If they have to rely on Dak, Cowboys can't do it. That's the thing. And I guess the question, and Jimmy, you've probably watched more Tampa Bay football than we have. Can the Buccaneers defense do the same sort of job as Commanders? I wouldn't think they've been that good this year. I think
Possibly not. They are. I mean, again, playoffs is a different story as well.
They have the GOAT. That's what you
They do.
also got to
They
throw
do.
that out there.
But when you talk about playoffs, when you talk about championships, you talk about defense, you'd probably say Cowboys pit Tampa on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. But do they have more offensive output?
They probably...
I'd say so.
You probably do.
I think Mike Evans and Tom Brady have gotten hot in the last 2 weeks.
They have.
2-3 weeks.
Always seem to do fire at the right time of year as well. So hopefully they have kept something in their back pocket and can at least make it one round deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the caveat. Whoever wins this game, I don't think gets past the divisional round. I think Eagles 49ers will dispatch whoever wins this football game.
Yep.
That's my thing. But overall, Cowboys maybe have a little bit of a Dak problem. He is, I guess, still coming back from the injury to the hand during the year, maybe a bit banged up with other things as well. So we'll see if he can kind of regain his elite form from years past.
Do you think they stick with Dak into the future?
Well, let's keep with that coaching conversation because Brandon Staley wasn't the only one. Mike McCarthy also rumoured to be on the hot seat. Lose this game, lose your job. Chat with, I believe, Jerry Jones being a bit hot for Sean Payton. That's probably like the definite hotness.
Half the NFL is going to be hot for Payton at the moment, though.
It is true. Cowboys maybe hotter than most, and maybe some mutual flirting there between the two of them too. So it could end up being very interesting. Again, another team that's kind of like, hey, we've got the good defense now. We've got the receiving option. The line's good. We've got, probably best, maybe second best running tandem in the NFL currently. We need to get the best out of Dak. Maybe Mike's not the dude for that job. Maybe Sean Payton could do it.
Yeah,
that's the question. So we'll see what happens. But there are a lot of reports floating around. Lose your job.
Is there a world where Cooper Rush fits into this Dallas Cowboys conundrum?
Maybe.
He didn't lose, did he?
He lost his last game and they switched back to Dak. And he played pretty poorly in that game. So, hard to say. It's not to say as well there's other options. There's plenty of veteran quarterbacks potentially on the market. Yeah. Do you see Derek Carr as an improvement? I'd probably say not. But, that is still a name that's floating around. He's thrown less than 10 picks, I think, the last 3 years or something. Besides this year was his worst year in the last 4. He's a guy that can win football games. I think he's got the most actually fourth quarter and overtime wins, Derek Carr, in the last 4 or 5 years. So he can win a football game.
Yeah. What do you think's Carr's problem with it, though? Like, what was he
Josh
missing?
McDaniels.
Fair enough.
The coach that gets rid of franchise quarterbacks. Injuries as well. Like Renfro, Waller missed most of the year. Adams was basically his only option. They blew up that offensive line and are still kind of rebuilding it. And the defense outside of Crosby's, missing a whole bunch of name talent as well. So
Yeah.
They're just grateful Denver played as poorly as they did, so they didn't end up being last in that division.
That's fair enough. Tom Brady was 7-0 against Dallas across his career.
There you go. There's the result. So
Yep.
Omen.
So,
Omen.
well, hopefully we can make it 8-0.
Yeah, the GOAT keeps it rolling.
Yeah. Just for one more week, though.
Yeah. And that's playoffs. Eagles and Chiefs wrestling up. We'll see the winners next week. So who would Jacksonville get? It would depend if the Dolphins win, wouldn't they? Dolphins win, they'd play Kansas. If Buffalo wins, it would be Jags, Chiefs.
Yep. So, good luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coaching news, not a lot else. 5 jobs still open. All the big names there, Harborough, Peyton, as we've been talking about, David Shaw from Stanford, Jimmy Caldwell and Evero, to name a few. A bunch of other interviews of heaps of other guys happening. They're kind of the hot names, I guess. That's why I put them up there. I know Denver interviewed all those guys, and they will keep those interviews going. I think most coaching announcements happen in February, so it's probably going to be another 2 weeks when playoffs finish and teams can pick apart some of those playoff team coaching staffs. We will see.
Probably the big news that came out this week, though, Cliff Kingsbury did.
When I say 5 openings, one of those openings that opened up was the Cardinals job. And actually, the Lovie Smith story is hilarious.
What happened?
He knew he was getting fired, so he went for 2 to win the game and give them the second overall pick, not the first. So it was,
Is that confirmed?
Do you reckon that's real?
Yes. Confirmed story. Lovie Smith knew he was getting fired, so his big dick, the organisation, went for 2, won the football game, and forced them out of the number 1 pick. Which means they probably miss out on Young because it sounds like the Bears have all the trade partners in the world for that first pick. Interesting, CJ Stroud has 2 more days to declare his eligibility. Otherwise, he's going back to college.
Interesting. Who's the Kentucky quarterback?
Is it Will
Davis or something?
Levi?
Yeah.
Is it Will Levi? Something like that?
Something like that. Some chat around him being
up there. You might steal CJ Stroud's position.
Do you reckon Lovie Smith picks up a defensive coordinator position somewhere?
I'd say so. He's a good defensive coordinator. Yep. So I'd say definitely he'll be on a staff somewhere. But yeah, funny, the big dick, the organisation.
Isn't the bloke in his 70s?
Yeah. He was doing them a solid, and he was another one-and-done coach, essentially, there. Haven't really heard too much on their people actually interviewing for Texans as yet. So we'll see.
I suppose you'd probably want to be avoiding that job if you were an up-and-coming coach, though. But
true, you do have the second pick in the draft, so you could potentially pick the quarterback to tie your,
is that going to turn the team around, though?
Probably not straight away, but you've tied yourself to it. You're kind of saying, hey, I've drafted a guy, give me 3 years. I need to work it out.
True.
But, yeah, you never know. Let's go back a week. I want to talk Lions, Packers. Scenes after the Packers game, Packers fan to my right wearing the hat. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is retiring? It looks like Randall Cobb. I still fucked it up. Cobb.
Opposite of protein, fat.
Yeah.
Cobb.
Randall Cobb.
Cobb
definitely
salad.
Cobb. Definitely retiring. Here on his end, scenes of him crying after the game and Rodgers giving him condolences and consoling. That's the one. He didn't die. Giving him the cuddles, etc. as they were going off the pitch. Supposedly, Rodgers met with the team, which would be Wednesday, Tuesday over there, to have discussions about where the team's going and what the direction is and what his kind of future is. No rumours. He wasn't on the McAfee show for Rodgers Tuesday because of this meeting. He will be on McAfee Tuesday, Rodgers Tuesday, which is our Wednesday, so in a couple of days. Pat, alluding he may divulge what he's going to do. But you there as a Packers fan, what do you think is happening with Aaron Rodgers after losing to the Lions and getting eliminated?
It seemed like that was the last football game that he plays at Lambeau Field.
Could very well do. he's got his new dime piece, and maybe it is time for retirement and do something else.
Well, there were a few signs, weren't there?
Yeah, well,
Jameson Williams asked him, "Can I have your jersey?" He said, "No."
Yeah, after the game.
I want to keep this one.
Yeah.
He walks down the tunnel with Randall Cobb under his arm, embracing each other.
Yep.
The whole debacle around this year and his relationship with Gooder Kenston or whatever his name is,
Yes.
has been under scrutiny. To me, it looked like that was the last game he plays as a Packer.
Yes. Yeah. And there's, I guess the whole Devonta Adams going back to the pre-season, off-season, and free agency last year, leaving for more stability. They were probably close, and he might have had some insights into kind of some of what Rodgers is thinking. Hindsight, funny, he's going to have a new quarterback most likely in Vegas. But, again, maybe a bit of smoke there, and it just kind of seems it's been building up to potential fire that, hey, yeah, Rodgers is looking to finish up his career.
He's 39 years of age.
Yeah.
You wouldn't look at his career and have any questions about what he's achieved.
Yeah, it's the amount of quarterback hits and sacks he's taken.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yep.
as an old man, you kind of think, do I need to keep doing this? Considering I've got fuckloads of money, I'm already a part owner of the Bucks, part owner of the Bears, haha. So, he's got money squared away. He could probably walk straight into a job with Pat and AJ if he really wanted to.
I'm sure he would.
He could even join, Tony Romo and future Tom Brady in the booth if he really wanted.
Maybe a small podcast in Australia.
True. He could also just disappear and do a whole bunch of psychedelics to the end of time. So, whatever he wants to do, it's...
Where do I sign up?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. He could also do anything.
Walk into a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
Do you reckon he would do that if the situation was right?
Walk into that Dallas role.
Now that's a question. He's been green and yellow his whole
Career.
Professional career. Does he go
But has green and yellow been Rodgers the entire time he's been there?
Good question.
I
would love to interview the bloke if you're listening, Aaron.
Yeah.
I would
maybe do a bit of ayahuasca together.
Yes, maybe. I'd say post.
I mean, Tom Brady did it.
True. I'd say post retirement, you may hear a lot about the inner workings of the Packers organisation.
Yeah,
which will be quite interesting.
Yes, I agree.
So, final thoughts? Done or he's coming back?
I think he's retiring.
I'd go that way as well. Jimmy? Never say never?
Yeah, never say never. I don't know if he's...
Off Tom Brady fame down the other table?
Yeah, that's it. If he stays with the Packers, I reckon they'd be asking him to restructure his deal.
Yes. Which also, great points. I think the 4 or 5 highest paid quarterbacks didn't make playoffs this year. So,
there you go.
Yeah. Because all those guys that got the big deals, Rodgers, Wilson, Murray, who was the other one?
It's interesting that you mentioned Russell Wilson.
Maybe? Yeah, well, he got a massive extension before the season started, so didn't make the playoffs.
He's perfect.
I think the coaching was more the issue.
I disagree.
Do you think you can see
6 touchdowns in 2
improvement?
weeks is not bad.
Do you reckon you can see improvement next year with Russell Wilson?
Oh, definitely. Like I just said, six touchdowns in 2 weeks was almost the rest of the entire season. I think there was a bit of a coaching issue there for sure. They just beat the Chargers. They just beat themselves. So, and played very well.
That probably says it.
It's Chargers themselves. Yeah. But what are the Chargers? What do they go into the playoffs as an 8 and 9 team? Something like that. They were a 500 team, and Denver played well against them with 23 guys on IR. So, yeah, I think they can definitely be better next year. Just got to be healthy.
Chargers were 10-7. Yeah.
All pro teams?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a list there?
I'll bring it up.
I think Mahomes was probably the biggest story out of that. 49 of 50 votes as the quarterback. basically guarantees he's going to be the MVP.
He's very good at football.
Yeah, another 5,000 plus year, all the touchdowns, no, not many turnovers. He's been very, very good this year, as we expect. So it was him and Hertz were the two. What do we got? Josh Jacobs was the rushing leader this year.
How about his comeback? Unbelievable.
I think he's a free agent as well. The veteran free agents, running backs going into the offseason is very tasty. I think there's 10 guys that potentially could have new jobs that were all like 1,000-yard rushers. So it's a good job there. Nick Chubb was 2. Justin Jefferson we have talked about, and Tyreek Hill were the ones, followed with AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb. Oh, I forgot Davante Adams, the top 3. CeeDee Lamb there for the wide receivers. Kels, as you'd expect, as a tight end. Kittle, he had a slow start to the year, was number 2.
I had him on a fantasy team, and he really turned it up on the back end of the year after I was like 1 and 8.
Trent Williams, John, is that Benito there?
Bitonio. That's a bit of a bibbity-bobbity.
I'll leave that with you, yeah.
Jason Kels, Zach Martin, and Lane Johnson round out the starters for the offensive line. And then defense. Yeah, up. It's on the right there.
Oh, yeah, good job.
Edge rushers, Nick Bosa was a sack leader,
8.5.
Probably favourite for Defensive Player of the Year. Will probably beat out his partner in crime there in Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons. Myles Garrett and Hassan Reddick were the 2s. Chris Jones, what was it?
Quinnen
Williams were the 1s. Dexter Lawrence and Jeffrey Simmons were the 2s. Linebackers, Fred Warner and Roquan Smith from Baltimore. Oh, and
just got paid as well.
Got paid. Huge deal for him. Will stay in Baltimore for a very, very long time, which makes sense. Like he looks like a prototypical Baltimore Ravens linebacker, so he'll be there for a long time. And Matt Mione there as well.
Milano.
Bobby Wagner, CJ Mosley, and Demario Davis were the 2s.
Cornerback's interesting.
Yes.
Sauce Gardner.
First,
Patrick Surtain, rookie last year.
Yes. Probably the 2 best cornerbacks this season. Sauce was the only rookie, I believe, in this All-Pro list, which is impressive.
Yep.
I think then the first in a long time to be on the All-Pro list. Alexander and Bradby were the 2s. And then you had Mika Fitzpatrick and I can't read that.
Talanoa Hufanga. He's got big Troy Polamalu vibes,
Yes.
playing safety for the 49ers.
Yes. Justin Simmons and who was the other one? James.
Derwin James.
Derwin James with 2s. So not a huge amount of surprises, I don't think, in that list. There were, I think Kels was a 50 for 50 pick, and I think one of the offensive linemen was the other 50 for 50 as well. There was a bunch of guys that, got 49 and 50, which is impressive. You get all the voters voting for you is very, very good. But yeah, we talked about Sauce as the rookie in that list. I can't think of any major snubs from that list. That is probably everyone that did a very elite this year.
Fair split between AFC and NFC blokes, do you reckon?
I'd say so. There's a lot of 49ers, a lot of Eagles in there, which is fair. A couple of Chiefs, as you would expect. A lot of guys from playoff teams. So, yeah, I think it is what it is. And that's the NFL for this week.
That'll probably wrap up our NFL chat for this week. A few big games going ahead tomorrow, early our time. Sunday night? Sunday afternoon over there.
All day, Sunday, I think.
Football.
Well, it's 2 games.
Playoffs. I think it's
3.
3.
3 games.
It's 3.
Yeah, so there'd be a morning game, an afternoon game, and an evening game, I'd say.
I'd say so.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit of basketball.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up, bang!
So there was 68,000 people in the Alamo Dome yesterday between the Spurs and the Warriors. Quite a fun kit, actually, from the Spurs. They'll, in the sky blue and a bit of colours and the rest of it. I wonder, moving forward, does the NBA consider doing this kind of game in a football stadium? You make more money on, ticket sales and the rest of it.
I suppose the biggest one would be not every team would be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I
here's the question
suppose
for where do they play the final? They play home and away. So,
but every city has a football stadium.
yes. Some of them are a little bit busy depending on this time of year.
Well, you need a roof. You need a roof on it as well.
Yes.
So not every city has a football stadium with a roof on it.
There are a lot of football stadiums though in the US.
Fucking hell.
A lot of very big ones. I guess the question, because they play so, it depends on the game, because they play so often that 20 to 30,000 kind of size arena makes sense because they can.
It's 20, really.
Yeah, it's 20 because they can pack them. They pack them. They look full constantly. Like it's a good visual. You don't want like what we have here with NRL games to play in an 80,000 seat stadium with 10,000 people.
Doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good.
That's what I'd be worried about.
Yeah, so I think you'd have to pick and choose what you would. I think final series maybe make more sense if you want to get guys in there. But I guess the history of you play your games home and away. You don't want Game 7 if you're going to a Game 7 in SoFi Stadium, as you will. And, it would be scenes, but it doesn't really help either team that's kind of, I guess, the top seed that's, wants that as a home game. You're taking it for a neutral. So maybe for some of the big rivalry clashes where they've got a bit of heat and fire, they know they're going to sell massive tickets, yes. But then, I guess, 3 weeks later, 3 days later, they might have to back up and play at home anyway in their small stadium. So it's a bit different.
Is it kind of gimmicky? Like, you saw photos of, hang on.
I saw the video of them with the phones with the lights
Yeah,
off.
if you got people sitting up in the nosebleed sections watching an
I saw some photos from
NBA
that.
game right in the middle of the field. How can you...
They were shit seats. I saw some pictures of
you,
people nosebleeds trying to watch basketball. And I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah, how do you get around that? Would you probably have the court offset to one side of the stadium so that you can fill up most of that side of the stadium? Or
I guess it is a bit of a difference in the way it's
not really purpose built for a smaller court
No, it's not.
Yeah. And it's a different atmosphere because basketball is more courtside, whereas football always has the big walls and you're kind of sitting over it. It is, it's more intimate, I guess, is the idea with the basketball and the teams. Whether you can recapture that in a big football stadium, I don't know. But then again, you get boxing matches in big football stadiums and, they sell out and have all the hype. You got all the people on the field, essentially on field seating, ringside. So it works for them. I can't see why not for a big event that they can't do it.
Is it a product of supply and demand?
Could be.
Yeah.
They do supply a lot and, they have 5 mil average viewership for matches compared to the NRL, which for a lot of the big matches was 40 and they kind of minimum was 20 mil. So, there's, I guess, again, like you say, supply and demand. There's one football game a week versus 3 or 4 basketball games. But, it could be the difference.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of think you need to...
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of you'd have to hype it with the right series or right kind of thing.
Yep.
I don't know. The only thing that can make sense to me is maybe in a final series where maybe game 1 is a neutral game. I don't know. Well, but then someone's got to give up home field for one of them. Which I don't think they'd agree to. Or you go to a game 7 and that has to be a neutral one. You get your 3 at home and 3 away, and then 7's. But then your 7's your neutral. But how often you don't get to game 7 as often as you'd probably like for the NBA to kind of create that drama.
Well, then do you play the first one in neutral? Potentially make it, in theory, run a little bit longer.
Play the lot in neutral. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Suppose
big bet-
NFL
big-
does it.
Yeah. Or for like your final series, Golden State taking on whoever, as an example. Golden State taking on Boston.
Bold prediction.
No, I'm just. That was last year's, wasn't it? Golden State taking on Boston.
Yes.
Or was it Bucks? I can't remember.
That was Boston.
Boston. Instead of when they go play the home game, instead of playing the home game in their arena, they play it at their local, their football stadium. So maybe. So when you sell a lot more tickets, but I don't know. I just don't think it's the vibe for basketball. I'm the dinosaur in the end.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it.
I do like the
yeah.
spectacle. I just don't know how you'd turn it into a regular product.
I like the idea of it. I think, again, going back to the number of the games they play, could you consistently get numbers in the stadium? Does it matter? Does it matter if it turns into an NRL game where you got 25% capacity? I don't know.
It's just another. I don't think they'd do that look because they are. TV deals are still massive. They've got to broadcast the thing. They don't want to be hiding the crowd because they've got none. I think COVID kind of showed that you still need crowds and good crowds at basketball games. So I just don't think it suits.
That's a good point as well. The way that COVID changed the dynamic.
Yeah, you can tell that. Take you to that Jacksonville game we just watched where they beat the Chargers. They were at home. The crowd was a massive difference in that second half.
Huge.
Yeah.
They were quiet in the first and they had all the volume you needed in the second. And that's how you get back and win games. It does add the momentum. Getting cheered for makes you do things. That's peer pressure.
The Hawthorne effect, I believe, is what that is called.
Yeah. That makes sense.
One performs better when one is observed.
Yes.
If they are good at at what is being performed.
Still have to have a little bit of talent there. Yeah.
Looking at the standings in the NBA, the Celtics still round out the top spot. The Nets still charging up the top.
What do you think of Ben Simmons? He keeps his run of 0 buckets and he had 9 rebounds and 10 assists the other day.
He plays great basketball outside of scoring.
Yeah.
He's got a role in that team, doesn't he?
Yeah. Again, he probably doesn't need to score as well, though.
Fuck no.
So
I think with Durant
why push that?
missing, they probably want some points for him. He can't be playing 27 minutes and put up 0. They need a couple buckets, I think. At least a couple.
If Kyrie Irving and Kevin
As long
Durant
as-
are on your team, I don't think it's your responsibility
I
to
agree,
score.
but with Durant out at the moment, I think he needs to offer him a little bit. He can't rely on Kyrie to do the lot in the coming weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that is it. Like, as long as you're winning games, then Simmons is doing enough. As soon as you stop winning games, then you need to start asking the question.
And they could probably not change anything and still be competitive and be in that top 4 when Durant gets back, which is maybe all they need to do. It's just like keep the ship facing the right direction and afloat. And when the captain comes back, they can make a push for the finals. Anything else interesting you see on that list, Peppy?
Cavs, Knicks playing good. Jalen Brunson and earning that paycheck. Miami climbing up those standings.
Got to talk about Jimmy Buckets. Like, he's back and they went 40 from 40 the other day from the free throw line, and he drilled the last one to get them to win by a point. So, I think we talked about last week. Jimmy Buckets back for that team is huge, and they will start to arise.
He's quintessential to them being a good basketball team.
Oh yeah.
Then we start getting into the iffy area, if you will. The Indiana Pacers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Chicago Bulls. And then Toronto, Washington is And then
They're the guys we've already written off. So.
and then Orlando, Detroit, and Charlotte. Let's see you later. The West, the Nuggets still hold top position. The Grizzlies, the Pelicans, the Kings. What do they call it? Shine the beam or
Beam me up, Scotty.
beam me up, Scotty.
The beam, the purple beam.
Fun. It's fun.
It is.
The Mavs, Luka, I think is the best player of basketball in the world.
It's a fair statement. He
Then
just needs a bit more, I guess, around him in the team. I think they.
Well,
again, I don't.
that's not the discussion, is it?
Yeah, true. That'll be a playoff discussion.
I'm not saying the Mavs are the best team in basketball. I'm saying Luka is the best basketball player.
Yes, I'm saying where they are at 5 there, just over 500, 24 and 20. They may need more to help Luka to potentially get him his first championship.
Agreed. Golden State, they're 500. They're clawing their way up.
Slowly working their way.
Minnesota, what are our thoughts around the T-Wolves? They, on paper, should be good. This Gobert, trade signing hasn't really worked out.
Yeah, I still feel too tall. That's how I think we talked about it last week. I feel that they're too tall and it's really not working for them yet. But I don't see they're going to need to, I guess, fundamentally change the way they kind of play to get the best out of the two of them to see how it works.
Does one give up a bit of height for a bit of coordination coming from a tall person?
Potentially. And it might also be, do they need to rotate the minutes a little bit to kind of give different looks? Because you've got two big men on there. Maybe they are going. Other teams are going smaller, add more movement to try and go against them.
Then we've got Clippers, Jazz, Suns. That's probably who we're looking at.
Suns a bit unders. They're
Indeed.
struggling a little bit late.
I think they've lost 6 out of 8 or sliding. And then Portland, OKC, the Lakers have used 52 players since they won the chip in 2020.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a lot of players in a few years.
I think LeBron, again, continues his form. He's been better, but they're just not winning enough games. I think
He can't do it all himself, can he?
Yeah.
Spurs, Rockets round out the West. It's going to be interesting.
I did see that I think the Lakers worked out Cousins during the week as well. See if they get him. But again, another old head to join an old team. Seems a little bit odd. But
yeah. Yes. What do you think about James and Lakers next year?
He's got next year, and then his son comes out the following year.
Yeah.
I think from memory. That's all he's aiming for. So he's been doing all these Hollywood stuff in LA, so he's probably set there. If the Lakers want to move on from him, they probably could. Do you think it's more a Lakers decision than a LeBron decision?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I think LeBron would be happy to play the Lakers next year and then go wherever his son gets drafted.
Really? You don't reckon LeBron holds any cards in that situation though?
Yeah, he's definitely got some clout, but also he's old as fuck. So that's the question: is like the Lakers got to make the decision: do we ride with LeBron for another year, with the wheels potentially falling off like we've seen the last two, or
potentially,
yes, or do we go full rebuild mode? Like, do they have to go find out the next young talent? Who's the next Kobe, LeBron, etc. that we can build the franchise around?
I mean, that's it. Like
they're going to have to start that at some point. It's just to start this year, next year, or they kick it down the road for another. That's what I'd be interested to see.
Basketball's a weird sport.
They could completely have a new starting five next year if they really wanted to. So they could definitely do it.
You know who missed the most shots in NBA history?
Who?
Kobe Bryant.
True. There you go. He also took a fuckload, so his percentage, I think, was probably still good.
I'd say so.
Yep.
Enough basketball?
Yep.
Enough for the week?
Let's talk some other round ball.
Soccer into the EPL. Can you put their table up on the...
So Arsenal are still top of the EPL table. However, Manchester is red. United get the job done against City today. It's perhaps...
Did you see the comments from the City coach?
No, I did not.
I think he's kind of written off the Champions League, not the Premier League, and is focusing on Champions League.
That sounds like a cop-out to me.
Yes, it is. It's definitely a cop-out.
Pep
You'd
Guardiola,
say that.
of same name as me fame. I think it's the funnest year that we've seen recently.
Oh, compared to last year, it's a massive change-up.
Yeah.
Big change of fortune, guys chasing. You know, like
There's a bit of a mix-up there.
Chelsea at 10th, like, it's different.
Signed
Liverpool at 9. So like,
João Felix this week. He went studs up in his first game.
carded, off he goes.
3 weeks he copped.
Jeez. Money well spent.
Yeah, well, sometimes you just have frustration, you know, in life, and
He's trying to settle in. He needed an extra leave. So
just really getting a bit of anger out.
yeah.
Look, I can relate. I can relate. However, if Atletico's played 125 million euros for you, I think 15 on the transfer fee, perhaps not the smartest move. Yeah, Chelsea and Liverpool right down there in the middle of the table. I like you.
Yeah, well, let's open it up a little bit at top. You've got Newcastle and I guess Hotspurs and Fulham kind of there and thereabouts, and those remaining.
How's Brighton?
Brighton.
Yeah.
Just quietly.
I don't want to talk about it.
Brentford as well at 8th. So it's a very, very different looking top 10. Though, what have we got? 20 matches for some of them still to play. They play 39, do they?
38, I believe.
Yeah. So almost at the midpoint of the season. A lot could still change. So I guess there's some interesting comments there of, where the Premier League's not for us and, we're focusing on the Champions League. Seems to be like a bit of cop-out with so many matches still to go and you're only 5 points behind.
How about Everton still sitting in that relegation zone?
Joined by West Ham there as well and Southampton. So, yeah, West Ham falling for grace for them too. So
it is also between 20 and 15 3 points.
Yep. So it's pretty close there, I guess, even 12 and 11. Like is 10 points between 11th through to 20th. Or 10th as well. So 10th through to 20, there's 10 points between them. And then there's, I guess, the big gap goes from 10th to 1, where there's 20. So some quick math on the Esky.
It's a fun year. It's a fun year. Arsenal obviously playing above and beyond what anyone expected. Martinelli and Odegaard, and very, very good in the middle. City, given their team, probably playing a little bit unders, and United. You seen the last 5? Green.
I'd even go to what were the last 5 of that. I think they've, since their divorce from Ronaldo, they've been lights out. I guess the whole Ronaldo interview, maybe that steeled the team together a little bit, and they've a bit of camaraderie there, and they've been red hot since. You can't deny the fact that they've been really good.
Was Ronaldo really that toxic in the team that they just could not put games together?
Maybe not toxic, but distracting.
Very distracting. As a straight bloke, would you still hook up with him, given his toxicity?
Well, he wouldn't be allowed to play for his current team if that was the case.
I probably would.
Putting on a spot here, but do you reckon there's any hangover from the World Cup for some of these teams?
Interesting.
Well, who's the top goal scorer in the Premier League?
Erling Haaland, who has had fucking 2 months off.
Exactly. Yeah. And who's he play for?
City. Good.
So, yes, I know the answers. I was getting to the point of if the guy that didn't play the World Cup, who's scoring the most goals, is on the team that's kind of given up on the Premier League, I'd say no, maybe not too much of World Cup. Maybe some form for a couple of guys coming off the World Cup. Bit of hype. So maybe depends. But I don't think too much impact yet. Maybe ask me in too much time when these guys are starting to get to the back end of the season and they've had a lot of miles in their legs and might need a rest. That's probably when the World Cup will make more of a difference, when they've been playing soccer non-stop for 6 months.
I suppose so.
But at the moment, I would say no. My thoughts.
Who do we see taking this out?
Newcastle for smoking.
Well,
I was just looking at that.
I need my Saudi money. Come on.
If you want to sponsor it up and go in for it. 5 points clear, the Gunners?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I suppose
Gunners will be favourites at this point.
I suppose you can't always count out Man City.
Nah.
I suppose you've got to look at the tail end of the season, who's playing who. And again, legs, like Champions League games, and then obviously World Cup and stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
It's the best EPL year in recent memory, that is for sure. How do we finish it up? Is it a final round?
Yes. Yeah, before you do that, give me a second. I just want to straighten that camera because I think Pepe kicked it.
Oh, by the way, I have a mustache and goatee combination because I went to a 90s party yesterday as Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters fan, etc.
That story.
It's times like these you learn to live again. Righto, give us a final round.
Let's go. Let's finish up.
Khabib Nurmagomedov has retired from coaching. What's he going to do?
Family life, I think, by all accounts. He's got married a couple of years ago and wants to take a step back from mixed martial arts. The question I have for you, though, he's a big coach and a big coach of a lot of important fighters. One very specific one that I wanted to have a chat about. What do you think this does for Islam going into the Volk fight in a month's time? Do you think that's a big out for him, not having Khabib there as his coach and in his corner?
Well, it's arguably the best fighter of all time, leaving your camp.
So is he retiring effective immediately? Is that the
I think that was the story, that he's stepping down. He hasn't been in the corners of any other fighters that I know of, and he does corner a lot of the guys out of their fight camp as part of theirs. I guess one of their leading coaches in that camp. To me, it sounded, the report that I was seeing was like he's retiring and he's stepping down. You do ask a good question: is it effective in media? But I think if they were making that announcement, they'd be doing it now. Otherwise, they'd be doing that post this fight. Like, he'd corner Islam and then, go off into the sunset. It's like, I'm the job done. But it sounds like it's now. It's I'm breaking it. Islam's probably getting into the middle to say, he's probably got 3/4 of his fight camp still to go. So maybe it's a good time also to get out. So he's got his other coaches there to fill in and take over Khabib's role. I just, do we downplay the role of Khabib in the rise of Islam? Is he that important there, or is Islam as good as we think he is? Being a former Sambo champion, as one of the only legit guys in that camp to actually win that sort of championship. Is he as good a fighter, and it won't matter, and he's going to go out there and have a good fight against Alexander Volkanovski? Because interesting, both of them were Alex is pound for pound number 1, and Islam was number 2. That got announced during the week as well. So a massive cross championship fight there.
How do you think Volk feels going into that one?
Confident. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, he's Alexander the Great. Yes, he maybe gives up a little bit of size, but he's gives up a lot of size to most guys he fights anyway in the featherweight division. It'll come down to technique, and we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I suppose that does put him Volkanovski in a bit of a compromising position, because if he does have that confidence,
Just
purely
too much
based on the
confidence.
distraction of it all, then that could be a little bit short-sighted, a little bit false sense of security, I guess. Because as much as Khabib's been in Islam's corner, Islam's still the fighter that he's got to face. He's not facing Khabib, so to speak. So
True.
Yeah,
True.
you have to be very careful thinking that sort of stuff, I reckon.
I guess. But you can probably... Is it safe to say that Islam with Khabib in his corner is more dangerous than Islam without? I think it's...
I don't know.
Because, for a dude you roll with every day, being arguably the greatest fighter in the world, to me, I think that's advantageous.
But again, you roll with him every day. Like, you'd obviously pick up everything that he's putting in.
True. So if he's retiring, and
do you necessarily need him?
Has he learnt everything from
habit?
Khabib?
It's just habit now.
I don't know. It's a very good point. Has he surpassed Khabib?
I mean,
win against Volk probably will answer that question.
Yeah, Khabib's obviously a legend, but you'd say probably the wrestling, the grappling side of the fight is where he provides most of any valuable input. It's not necessarily striking.
True.
So, again, where does Islam take this fight as well? Is he going to, because of the size difference, is he going to stand up and strike, or is he going to try and
wrestle the shit out of him?
Yeah.
I don't know. We will, of course, preview that fight as we get closer to fight night, fight day. But I guess it was just an interesting point to discuss with Khabib going off into the sunset.
Indeed.
The card today had Sean Strickland jump in as, and that's the fight right there, as a replacement.
Like 6 days notice or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. They joked at the weigh-in yesterday is just like, how am I the bigger guy? Because the dude he's fighting with is about the same size as him, but is like jacked and huge. So they did this at a catchweight at the light heavyweight division. I think it was a catchweight. Because, of course, Strickland, being a middleweight, wasn't going to get down to 185 on 6 days' notice. Who won this fight for us, Jimmy? Looks like Strickland might be getting
Strickland did.
Strul, what round are we talking?
Went to decision.
5 rounds. Wow.
No, it was only a 3-round fight.
How's that right? There's 5 rounds on the screen there.
Hang on. No, there was 3 refs. Umpires.
You say, I can't read. He's wearing glasses today.
Yeah, it was a 5-round fight. Unanimous decision, 49-46, 49-46, 48-47.
Maybe drop this first round. Looks like he's getting hit a bit here.
Maybe. It looks
like it went in deeper. Well, that's good for Strickland. He needed to kind of right the ship a little bit after, of course, getting slept by Alex Pereira in his ascendancy to the middleweight championship. So
Fair enough too.
Yeah, dude's got hands.
Yeah. So this one was at light heavyweight.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, wasn't weight or anything.
I'm just not sure if his opponent is a light heavyweight by nature, or they just agreed to do it in this division. Because like Strickland's got 7 against his name there, but I think he's a 7th ranked middleweight. He's not a 7th ranked light heavyweight. So. Yeah. All right. Speaking of light heavyweights, let's use that and go into UFC 283, which I believe is in Rio de Janeiro. Brazil. Yep. Down there in Rio. We'll start off, I guess, with Glover Teixeira taking on their challenger in Hill, who, after the draw previously, got this fight. Anthony Smith, I think, was booked to fight Hill. Lost his opponent, and Hill will now fight Teixeira for the championship. What do you think of this?
Glover is old.
Still good, though.
Fucking oath he is. And Jamal
looks good against Petrarca.
Perhaps a little bit lucky to have this title fight.
What I thought was interesting was his last loss was 4 or 5 fights ago against Paul Craig, who was on this card, light heavyweight, taking on Johnny Walker, who...
Keep on walking.
Yep.
Johnny Walker,
Johnny
I
Wilkinson
think, which is interesting because I think Johnny Walker... who beat Johnny Walker recently? There's a weird matchup in this. Craig beat Hill, Hill beat Walker, I think was how it all worked out.
Yes. Walker beat Hill. No, sorry, Walker lost to Hill.
Yep.
And then...
Yeah, and that was after Craig had beaten Hill. But Craig, I think, lost since then. So a bit of a trifecta there, but some guys kind of there and thereabouts for this division. It is a step up for Hill. I think he's about middle of the pack in the light heavyweight division. I favour Teixeira in this one, even though he's old as balls.
I do too.
Yeah, he's got the experience there.
You guys see the heavyweight news today?
Oh, well, I guess that's the new announcement. Was leaked. John Jones taking on Cyril Gain. Garn, depending on how you want to say it, for the vacated heavyweight title. Was leaked at T-Mobile Arena, later confirmed by John Jones, later confirmed by the UFC. I think they didn't want to, it's a bit dirty how they kind of leaked it because of the information with what's happening with Ngannou's contract. Sounds like they offered him to pay him the highest, pay him the most of any heavyweight ever in the UFC. He's turned it down and is now a free agent, can sign with whatever to do whatever he wants, whether that's boxing against Fury or whether another mixed martial arts promotion, whether he comes back to the UFC at some point. But with releasing him from his contract, they have stripped him of his belt. His knee's a bit iffy at the moment anyway, so he wasn't going to be fighting. So they want to keep that division going, want that title in a picture. Maybe they didn't want to do that interim conversation. So, yeah, Jones gone for the championship for whoever. Well, Jones will get into the heavyweight division. His first fight in that division goes up against probably the number one contender at the moment, and the winner will be the champion.
Should John Jones get that as a, given what he's done in the light heavyweight division?
I don't see why not, yeah. Maybe for John Jones it makes more sense that he has more of a tune-up fight, but it is heavyweight and you just probably don't take those risks. If it's on the cards, why not?
Yeah.
Plus it's going to be a huge fight. If it's at the T-Mobile Arena, which I'm assuming is the UK one, there's probably a few T-Mobiles about. Could be in the US, but either way, it'll be a massive, massive fight, sold out, and we'll have a fuckload of people at it.
T-Mobile's US, isn't it?
I'd say so.
I'm pretty sure there's...
It's O2 Arena.
Oh, maybe it's O2.
The UK one, yep.
It wouldn't surprise me if they've got a couple. But anyway.
True.
Yes. Back to the UFC 283. The other title championship happening, which is this week, of course, this weekend coming, is the flyweight division. You got Figueroa taking on Marino for their fourth fight. Marino,
What is it?
Quadrology?
Quadrology?
Something like that.
I think, Marino's the interim. Figueroa won their previous fight and is currently the champion. How did it go? Figueroa won the first one, Marino won the second, Figueroa won the third, and that's where we're at now. Be interesting to see who's made the gains, learnt the new things.
First fight was a draw.
Ah, that's right. Draw.
It's 1-1-1.
Yes. Would not surprise me if Marino won this to take the championship belt back, and then they do the fifth fight.
What's that called?
Quintology?
Yeah. I think that's the problem with the flyweight division a little bit is there's not a lot of top-name challengers kind of banging down the door, which is why we're here where we are, having these two fight for a fourth time. But having said that, each fight's been electric and has offered something slightly different.
Been fun.
It has been fun, and this will be a fun co-main to this. Into the welterweight division, you got Gilbert Burns taking on Neil Magny, which is probably a good step-up fight for Neil. Been there in that division for a very long time. Finally gets, a top guy in Burns. Do think Burns probably still does the job here. He's, 2 or 3 in that division, and rightly so. Really pushed Usman in their fight.
Yeah.
And
didn't embarrass himself at all.
And didn't embarrass himself against the hazmat man himself in their fight, which was a banger too. So I think Burns probably in this one against Magny.
Jessica Andrade and Lauren Murphy?
Yes. It'd be interesting to see what is on the line for this flyweight fight. Both of them up the top there. Both of them have, I think, had title fights. I think Murphy's had a title fight, or she's very, very close. Yeah, she's 4th currently. Andrade is there at 6. So I have a feeling that Valentina's beaten all these girls.
I'd say so.
But it keeps them both in the conversation to push themselves into that, say, top 3 conversation for another chance at the bullet. Did you confirm that, yes, Murphy had lost to Valentina?
Yes. So back in UFC 266, she lost to Valentino for the championship. belt there.
Which might have been an early fight for Murphy as well. I don't think she'd been in that division very long. So, it's been, it's probably a year and a half since then. So let's see if she's made improvements and can get the job done against a big lady in Jessica.
She did make her flyweight debut back in 2017.
In the UFC division?
In UFC, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in UFC.
How many fights before she fought Valentine?
There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7.
Few.
It's a few, but it's still a pretty quick ascendancy in the UFC division. Yeah. And the last fight, as I mentioned before, light heavyweight, Paul Craig taking on Johnny Walker. This will be an interesting fight. Johnny Walker kind of, I guess, got to right the ship and keep the hype train alive a little bit for himself in that division.
Keep on walking.
Yeah, keep on walking. He's gone back and forth. But Paul Craig, like I said before, I believe he knocked out Hill in their fight. Definitely is a name in that division too. So another guy to potentially push that conversation up into top 5 for maybe a potential fight away from taking on whoever the champion is after the main event happens. Flip a coin for me in that one.
Bengals.
And I guess if we finish with boxing news, the Misfits card happened this morning early for us. KSI, first round knockout. Good left hand there to do away with face temper.
Tempo.
Yeah. Slim won his fight by decision in the co-main. Salt Pappy is probably one of the most interesting names in that. He's knocked out everyone he's fought on his boxing cards. So a guy that's probably rising up the rankings there. But KSI did the job, looked very quick, very fast, keeps that conversation. That Jake Paul fight's got to happen sooner rather than later. That's what everyone wants to see, and that's the story they're going to be building, and they keep that train rolling.
He can box.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me since Jake's going to trying to push for the Nate Diaz stuff. Wouldn't surprise me if that happens mid-year. KSI maybe does Woodley mid-year to have that conversation. If he does something similar to Woodley that Jake did, then that probably sets up maybe a November kind of event for Jake taking on KSI. That's how I think this story will go.
Interesting.
Cool.
It's weird that we spend so much time on these fights, but they are becoming a lot more legitimate, I suppose.
Well,
What, did you see the arena? They're selling out football stadiums.
That's boxing now.
Yeah. The massive guys. Massive followings for those two guys. KSI's got, I think, if you combine all these subs across these things, it's probably 40 to 50 million now of subscribers across all these channels. That's
only a few more than us.
Yeah, a few more than us.
Like 40 to 50 million more than us.
Yeah. And FaZe had 5, so maybe different kind of markets and, a bit of overlapping there. Like that's a lot of eyeballs interested in your content, which is going to sell bums and seats. True. Very true.
Should we wrap it up with a bit of F1?
Yeah, some small news and Andretti been trying to get into F1 for the last year or so. Every hurdle thrown at them, they have been addressing. So I think originally it was, can you find the money for the entry fee, being $200 million? Did that. Commitment to the sport. So they broke ground essentially on the biggest racing facility, like construction facility in F1. So bigger than what Mercedes, Red Bull, etc. have. Again, commitment to the sport. Then F1 asked them, hey, you need to be, brand based. You need to have some sort of backing. So they went out and did the deal with GM and with Cadillac. So there'd be Andretti Cadillac, I guess, or Cadillac Andretti as a race team. So they got that backing, did everything they wanted. The vote went to the teams. 9 out of the 10 teams turned it down, voted it down. Of course, they don't want competition, so understandably. Alpine being the lone team that didn't. I think they rightly said, hey, we want competition in the sport. We want the growth, etc. If they've jumped every hurdle, why are we saying no to them? Following on from that, the teams were saying, hey, we should increase the entry fee from $200 million to $500 million, so $500 million, which essentially would rule out everyone from ever wanting to try and get into the sport.
Bit of money.
Kind of limiting it to it'll be a 10-team sport or the 11-team, depending on where. I guess Audi is the unknown one at the moment, or was it Porsche? I can't remember. Where they fit. Andretti still wants to get that done. I'm still confident that they probably will, but it's an interesting story. Kind of shows less competition from the teams and greed, I guess. They don't want an extra product, but I still think adding an extra 2 cars to the racetrack is always going to add more excitement and value. And that's my thoughts on it. And race pedigree like Andretti added into the sport, I think is excellent, especially for the American audience too. And to me, it sounds more like they're scared than it's a bad idea. I feel fear. They can smell the fear. The predator.
Jaws.
Bit of both.
Bit of both.
If it bleeds me, kill it.
That's predator.
That's definitely predator.
It's interesting though, because you'd think the top tier teams like the Red Bulls, Ferraris, Mercedes wouldn't
give a fuck. There's like,
wouldn't give a fuck.
We're going to win anyway. So
yeah, I think obviously the share of prize money, but then having Andretti and you're going for more US races, you'd think that's going to bring in a lot more viewership as well. Anyway, so
also I agree.
There's got to be a commercial aspect of having a US team come into sport as the sport's building in the US
and backed
market.
by GM. Like Cadillac, I think is a bit of an interesting one. I wouldn't have thought GM's premier performance car line would be Cadillac, but that's the one that GM's put forward.
That's all just badges.
Yeah, but exactly. It's still you've tied it to a US based car manufacturer, which I guess direct competition for the German brands and the English UK based teams. So. I still think it's a great idea.
Definitely.
If they let Haas in, and I think Andretti's done more effort and has more backing than Haas does as a team, as a US-based team, I think they're overall better option. So, and the only other bit of news is Williams stole the what would he be? Total Wolff's right-hand man, essentially.
It was the race strategy.
He's number 2, essentially, in the Mercedes garage to go across and be their team principal for next season.
Yep.
So, that's a good get for Williams.
Is that all the team principals sorted now, or is there one more left?
I think, has Haas got one?
I can't remember.
Gunter's still there. They didn't fire Gunter.
Yes. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Aston Martin's still there. Yes,
Yeah,
McLaren sorted theirs out.
Yep.
Yes, I think so. Feels like they have. Yeah. Yep. Maybe not. Who's Renault at the moment? They
Alpine.
What's their name? They're Alpine. Yeah. No, they've got theirs. Yeah.
Yep.
That's F1. That was a little bit of news. I thought it was interesting with Andretti there, and I guess that's the podcast.
I think so.
Australian Open starts Thursday.
Tomorrow.
Well, Monday. There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number one Australian ranked woman had to pull out knee injury, unfortunately. She was ranked 12 overall in the world, and I've forgotten her Eastern European name because it's too hard to say.
Ilya Timlanovic.
Something like that. Yeah. Which is a big out for us. Seeing Ash Barty Nick Kyrgios and Novak playing in there. Warm-up, selling out that stadium in under an hour.
Got a lot of people.
Yeah. Got a lot of people there. Very impressive. Novak getting a bit of love from the crowd, which is probably, I guess, good to see after the couple of years he's had. He loves it down here, of course, and we'll see how that tournament unfolds.
His biggest concern, though, is I think he's still carrying a hamstring injury, potentially.
He looked all right against Kyrgios the other day. So.
Yeah, so I can't remember if it was him or someone else, but yeah, definitely.
I saw Nadal's warming up. He looks good. So, some of the big hitters already getting ready and primed for that one.
No, Alcaraz. He's 20 and he's very good at tennis. Shan't be down here.
Yep.
Yeah. That's very unfortunate.
And that, I think, is the sporting world.
Thank you if you've joined us here on the Esky. We shall see you next week.
Yes.
More sport to come. We'll know more
sport.
in the NFL playoffs. Who's divisional? We'll have another week in the NBA. Have some results from UFC 283. And
Manchester is red.
probably it's a bit light on this week for cricket. It's more just Big Bash.
Yeah. Might cover some Big Bash games.
We'll see
if
you
there's any
next
playoffs.
week on the
Yep.
Esky.
See you.
Goodbye.
Bye.